The final presentation of today's conference is by Sri Rajarshi Nandi, practices particularly Tantra Sadhana. He has written a book on the fundamental concepts of sadhanas.
For 2 days we had some wonderful presentations, and there's much I learned listening to extremely talented people. Some of them are friends, but I did not know that they were so talented until I sat there in the audience and actually listened to them. It's one thing to know somebody casually over Facebook and then listening. So what I am going to talk about is slightly different from the tone and tenor of the kind of materials we have seen, which is very briefly, if without going too much into the complexities of doctrines and all that. So there are two fundamentally understood paths of upasana within the larger Hindu Dharma. One is the Vedika path. Vedic is not only, doesn't mean, so today if somebody says that he follows the Vedika path, it does not necessarily mean that he has a full in-depth knowledge of the Veda Samhita and he can do it. So it derives from there into the Puranas, the Itihasas and the traditions that follow from there. Parallel to this is what we know as the Tantrika path. And we do have ancient commentators actually bifurcating both these two and saying that both are valid. This is Vedika Dharma, this is Tantrika Dharma. So my topic today is slightly, not only is it on the Tantras, but specifically on a specific strain of the Tantras. Before I go into that, I'll just give you a brief idea of why the Tantras are considered as a valid scripture, because it is important to know that. It's not enough to have, okay, there is some text, so tomorrow somebody comes up and says that, okay, I found a text and I've written something like that. Does that become a Shastra? No. There are certain basic criteria for that. So if you ask, simple one-line answer to why is the Tantra a valid Shastra? Because Lord Shiva says so. Simple one-line answer. To this, there are many other complexities and all this, but basically what happens, and this is a theme we find both in the Shaiva systems of Kashmir, along with the parallel development of Tantra that happened somewhere in the eastern region, in and around the Pithas of Kamakhya and other places. So both places, the authorization, why does a Shastra become authoritative? Why is it to be followed? Why is it, what makes it capable of giving Siddhi? Siddhi means not necessarily as, magical ability to fly in the air and all that stuff. Siddhi means accomplishment of the principle, a transformation that is happening, because the source is Shiva. So Shiva says in the Tantras, and this is, we find it repeated from there right up to, even recent texts like the Mahanirvan Tantra, which is about 200-300 years is the last manuscript we have, says that, so every yuga has certain properties, certain gunas, certain capabilities. It says the dharma of the Satya Yuga was a certain nature, and the people in general were capable of following that. Why? That's because they had a longer lifespan. Their basic corruption level was very low, and that is, I'm saying, at a very normal level. It's not that you have to put in an effort to be very pure or anything. And that keeps degrading after each yuga, to the extent that it comes to the Kali Yuga. In the Kali Yuga, your lifespan is less. In general, the corruption level is high. It doesn't matter whether you are a saint or whether you are a sinner. You are still born into the same pool. The basic arrangement is like this. So in that case, in that sequence of, in that kind of an atmosphere, Shiva says that it is in this yuga that the Tantras will slowly start gaining prominence. And it is through the Tantra and the Agama that you will be able to have interaction with the deities. So Tantra Shastras, if you take a Purana, the Puranas, the structure of the Purana, as one of the speakers was, I think Nitin was mentioning. So first you'll have, mention of the process of creation, what was there. Then there is the Vamsas of the kings and the great avatars, this, that, and then you get, so the basic structure is what you have a deity, say Shiva Mahapurana you are going into, or Vishnu Purana, brilliant texts, if you go to study anyway. So it creates that sense of awe and reverence towards a great power. You understand the leelas of that power, that great being, that deity, and then slowly your mind gets aligned to it, and then there are principles of dharma, principles of how you should conduct your life integrated within that text. The Tantra Shastras do not follow this kind of a pattern. If you take up any of the Tantras, the first chapter of a Tantra would most likely be a chapter on the necessity of a Guru. What is the Lakshana of a Guru? What is the Lakshana of a disciple? When can you leave a Guru? How should a Guru behave with a disciple? This, that, etc. Next chapter you will have is the necessity of a Diksha. So Tantra is entirely a Diksha process. It starts this way. Without the initiation, Diksha, then there are categories of Diksha and Tantra. You don't get entry into this. So here is some, not to deviate too much from the main topic, here is some parallels as well as some differences. So in the Vedic system also you do have a Diksha, by the way. The moment you have an Upanayana, that is actually exactly what a Diksha is. So original system was that all the three Varnas will have the Upanayana. You have the Adhikara to do Veda, part Veda Karma Kanda. Only the Brahmins have the Adhikara to teach the Vedas to the others, right? So Tantra takes this but changes it slightly. It says that anybody has the right to do Kaula Karma. Kaula Karma is Tantra, provided you have an initiation into it. And once you have the initiation, then somebody who may be of a higher Varna but who does not have the initiation does not have the Adhikara for it. And therefore, in Tantric Mandalis, very often we have examples of Gurus who are from maybe Kshatriya Varna or Vaishya Varna or other Varnas, etc. And they will have disciples who are from the first Varna, Brahmins, etc. So this is a perfectly valid system. This is what Shiva designs it this way, tells it this way. And then there are gradations of Dikshas, etc. So, and in the same context, the primary manner in which Tantra Sadhana works is, this is a very vast topic, but the texts of Tantra, as I was saying, so second is Diksha, third you will have, it will go directly into the Karma Kanda of the Devata. So its main aim, it will give you the mantra of the Devata, whichever deity it may be. Say if you are looking at a text with respect to say Brihadila Tantra, which deals with Tara Upasana, if you are looking at Kali Tantra, if you are looking at Kamakhya Tantra, straight away it will go, okay, now here is the deity. How do I approach the deity? What is the mantra of the deity? How do I, and it is intense, heavy in Karma Kanda. It is exactly parallel to the Vedika Karma Kanda. There is not even Vedanta. I am not talking Vedanta here. Vedanta still has a sort of a milder version of the toned down Karma Kanda. The original Vedika Mimamsa Karma Kanda, that type of reflection you'll find in Tantra, that intense. If you have an initiation proper into a Tantric Sampradaya, proper one, and these days it's a proliferation of Tantra everywhere. And I'm not talking about that. So even to sit down to do a mantra japa, you have to make a mandala under your asana. You have to, the place where you keep your Achman Patra, you have to make a mandala, you have to do a mantra, etc. All these things are there. Even if mechanically you do, you have to do it. There is a necessity of this ritual as you keep doing it over time, and if you are a little reflective about it, eventually you will see that there is a power in that. It is the power of the mantra that purifies the thing. It's the power of the mantra that purifies the asana that you are sitting, that protects the asana. And this is even before you actually go into the deity. Okay, there is nyasa of the deity, dhyana of the deity, is that. A lot of things will be there. And it is important to do that. It is not at all something you can skip. To give a very simplified example, if you enter into a IT company, when I had the interesting fortune of having to pass through many years of IT work. So when I enter an entry level and I say tomorrow, okay, see, I'm fantastic. I only report to the CEO. I don't care who's the manager. I don't care who's the manager's manager. मेरे को फर्क नहीं पड़ता. I just CEO ही बस है. Is that possible? Does that work in any company in the world? Same system here. So when you are doing Pradhana Devata is far off. Before that you have to pass through layers. Each of them, any one of them can stop your progress from there. So therefore you have to give first Shuddhi to yourself, Atma Shuddhi, which is the physical body. It's not Atma Shuddhi. Atma though is very far off. If you can find the Atma, then you don't need to listen to this talk anyway. So Atma, so Deha Shuddhi, Panchabhuta Shuddhi, asana suddhi, then the area where you are doing, then Deepalas and everything, Bhairavas, this is our krama like this. And then finally the Pradhana Devata is sitting inside, right? Somewhere in there. That is the CEO of the company. So in this case, because I'll be dealing with Shakta Tantra, so it is some form of Bhagavati, suppose. She's sitting right there. She's aware of everything, but she doesn't interfere in anything. This is the thing. To be able to get a response from the Pradhan Devata is a huge thing. You have to be a superlative upasana. Superlative. Even Ramakrishna had to pass through a lot of trouble before Kali actually came and started speaking to him. And what was the trouble? He went to the extent, his desperation was so great, he goes into the Kali temple, takes up the sword and is about to decapacitate himself, saying that either you are here or there's no point in living. He was Ramakrishna. For us, we would have died only. So, Kali appeared before. So, no, and dying is also not a bad thing. In fact, in our in eastern India and in places where Tantra sadhana has been there existing for many centuries, we have stories of great siddhas. There is one called who is known as Sarvanandanath Thakur. He remembers when at the time of his siddhi of Ugradhara, he attained siddhi of Ugradhara, and at the time he remembers 7 lifetimes he has been trying for this, and he has been failing. 7 lifetimes he has been failing. It's only, and that is when the deity gives him the memory. Okay, how long have you been trying? What have you been done? Where have you been born? He writes down everything. Where was he in his past life, etc., etc. That is the final moment of the siddhi. Third, the last characteristics of a tantric text is that it will always mention siddhi. Every text, there's not a text that doesn't mention siddhi. Why siddhi? Siddhi basically means, so magical powers and all that is there. I'm not denying it. That will come. That's a part of it. But siddhi means a complete inner transformation, so powerful that it changes the outer environment also. And it happens even today, till this date. If you search for people, there are people like this. They may not be in public, or they may not want to display it in public, and the really genuine ones actually never want to display it. First time I ever had any interest in these things was I was in college, and I randomly met one gentleman who was a very great Tantrapasana. I had no idea at that time. So he was sitting in front of me, and when I was going through a lot of trouble, etc., he suddenly says, he speaks sometimes, and then says that, just show me a hand, just like that. He catches my thumb, just for maybe 5 seconds, and then says that, smell your thumb. And it's the most amazing fragrance I've ever smelled. Most amazing. I've never come across anything like that. And those days I was in full, at least unofficial atheist, one of those very obnoxious kind of atheists, who was going to go and fight with everybody without any knowledge, but that's the way it was. Okay. So, and I'm thinking that some trick is going on. Okay, either he has hypnotized me, kuch to kiya hoga isne. How is this possible? Then I'm seeing that he tells me things which even my closest friend is not aware of. Just like that, starts rattling off XYZ. After that is how my entry into these things happened. It was I don't come from a traditional background or a traditional family or anything. After analyzing all possibilities, I realized that this was neither a trick, this was neither something, hypnotizing me, nothing of that sort. I became interested कि what is this? ये कैसे मिल सकता है? How do I get to this? How do I understand ये क्या है? So then he said, you have to do sadhana. बिना sadhana कुछ नहीं होता है. And he gave me a mantra of a devata which I never heard in my life. That time my basic understanding of Hinduism was there is Shiva, there is Krishna, and being from Bengal there is Mahakali. Bas, और तीसरा कोई है नहीं. ठीक है. So this was an entirely new deity which I had never been heard of. Anyway, so this is how so tantric texts speak of siddhi. Siddhi is very important. Siddhi is not something to run away from. Siddhi, we are told that you should shun siddhis. Yes, lower type of siddhis are to be shunned, but main siddhi, the primary siddhi is communion with the deity. Today I am sitting here and speaking to you, and you are responding to me. You have to reach a stage where your Ishta actually speaks to you and communicates this way. Whether you look at your Ishta as a mother, your father, your friend, or a daughter, or this or that, that is siddhi. It is by his or her power that things will happen. Your job is only to reach to that level, to be that persistent that the deity starts responding. And then there are degrees of response, by the way. It's not that simple. It's one thing, it's a vast topic in itself anyway. If I go there, then my presentation will run somewhere else. So with this structure in place, this is mainstream tantra. Now we have a parallel side stream of tantra also. I don't know if anybody has heard of this thing. So there is something called the Sabar tantras. Has anybody heard the name here? So it's very popular in North. It's very popular. In fact, not only North, from those who are interested in these things, from Maharashtra to Bengal and all those areas, there is a parallel stream of tantra upasana that is known as Sabar tantra. So the word Sabar actually comes from the reference to, as you might have guessed in the Ramayana, Lord Rama meets Sabri. So from there it comes. It's not a proper textual derivation and all that, but it's more colloquially there. There are no scriptures of this tantra. There is Sabar tantra does not have formal scriptures. It is something that is passed down to Guru Shishya like this. Primary characteristics of the Sabar tantra is that it uses non-Sanskrit mantras. Okay, yes. So this was popularized by 9 extremely